Thanks for staying with us. A trending report created quite a bit of national discourse, generated mixed reactions, especially amongst netizens. It borders on the convicted notorious kidnapper Chukwudimeme Onwuamadike, that's Evans, seeking pardon over his outstanding case with the Lagos state government. According to this counsel, Emefo Etudo Evans recently bagged a Nigerian certificate in examination, NCE. He is now at 200 level and he is willing to further till his PhD level. He is now a changed person, remorseful of every atrocity that he has committed, and now he's hoping that the Lagos state government can enter some sort of a plea bargain with him. So do you agree with this? That's really the conversation we're having today. But before we discuss it, let's look at the report from TVC News.
The news at 1. Let's bring you more on that case on Evans, who is a convicted kidnapper, Chukwudimeme Onwuamadike. He's also popularly known as Evans and has been rearranged on a 5-count charge of murder and kidnapping before Justice Adenike Koka of the Lagos State High Court, Ikeja. Now, the defendant says he has repented and is pushing for a plea bargain. Kemi Foladeyemo reports.
This is the third kidnapping-related case being brought against Evans by the Lagos State government. In February 2022, an Ikeja High Court judge, Hakim Oshodi, sentenced him to life imprisonment for the kidnap of Donatus Dunu, the chief executive officer of Maidon Pharmaceuticals Limited. In September same year, another judge of the High Court, Oluwatoyin Taiwo, now retired, sentenced Evans to 21 years imprisonment for kidnapping a businessman, Silvanus Ahamonu, and collecting $420,000 as ransom from his family. Apart from this present case, he is also being charged by the state government in 2 other matters. Evans and his co-defendant, Joseph Emeka, were brought before this court for the alleged offenses of the murders of 2 persons, as well as attempted murder and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. On Thursday, both defendants were rearranged on the 5 counts charge, which they pleaded not guilty to. The prosecutor, Yusuf Sule, asked the court for a date to proceed on trial by the judge for a report on the defendant's plea bargain application. The counsel said the matter is currently before the committee set up by the state government and that the second defendant is also seeking a plea bargain. In his response, Evans' lead defense counsel says he newly took up the case to represent the first defendant and that his primary focus now is to pursue the plea bargain request and not to proceed on trial. He says Evans recently bagged a Nigeria certificate in education while in custody and is willing to further his education to the level of PhD.
The federal government gave him opportunity to reform and re-educate himself. They gave him scholarship at maximum security prison, Krike. He took the scholarship. The outcome of the scholarship is that today he has NECO, he has NCE, merit. That is almost distinction. And he was admitted on merit to Open University. And he's on 200 level. Because if the plea bargain and clemency, which we are pursuing, is acceptable to Lagos state government and he is let out of prison, he will be under the custody of Lagos state government.
Evans has been remanded at the Kirikiri Maximum Security Facility here in Lagos for the past 8 years. He says he's now remorseful of all the crimes he's committed and is asking the Lagos state government for a second chance. But the prosecutor told the court that his plea bargain request will now be tabled before the committee, who will sit next in March. This case has now been adjourned to March the 20th for report on his plea bargain request. Kemi Foladeyemo, TVC News, Lagos.
Thanks for staying with us. So, based on the report, so we have 2 convictions, which is already serving, right? Nima, I mean, thank God that so is the third case that he's asking for a plea bargain, the issue of the murder and the attempted murder case. So,
but a pardon excuses him from the other consequence. It means it goes like the chicken thief from Oshun.
So if he gets this plea bargain, now plea bargain for me, is it,
he's
my question?
For a pardon.
A pardon. Okay, and not a plea bargain, there are different things. I had plea bargain.
That I think what he's asking is a plea bargain in the case he's facing.
And then a pardon for the entire thing. So the pardon allows him to go home for all the allegations. And the plea bargain is just for this third case. But that means that he...
Murder and attempted murder?
Yes, but he's still serving the 21 years.
He's convicted for murder in the first court. Murder and kidnapping in the first court, for which he was tried. And the second one, he was granted, was sentenced to 20-something years in prison, 21 years in prison. And so this third one.
Okay, so the conversation is, what do we think? I mean, this is obviously for the courts. This is not something, usually we don't discuss court cases. We're not allowed to discuss court cases. But the focus is on your thoughts, because no social media were talking about it. On like, do we agree that he should be given a plea bargain? Do we agree that he should be pardoned? I mean, what are your thoughts on this? And that's really the conversation. Who'd like to go first? You see?
I could start here. So, Chukwudimeme Onwuamadike, that we know as Evans, is a convicted Nigerian kidnapper and is a native of Anambra State. They said sometimes they refer to him as the billionaire kidnapper, according to the Nigerian police. Why I'm stating this is so that we know the person we want to ask for pardon for. It says he's one of the richest criminals in the kidnapping activities in Nigeria. In some of his operations, he makes up to $1 million, one operation. And the Inspector General of the Police Special Intelligence Response Team of Nigerian, that's force as well, also described him as very smart, crafty, and intelligent kidnapper who has been evading arrest for many years before they finally got him. Now, this is the, would I say, the biography of this particular person that we want to ask for pardon for, right? He has gotten an opportunity in the prison to have a scholarship that many Nigerian children are struggling to get. We have many out-of-school children. There's no opportunity for them to go to school. And you, as a kidnapper, a convicted criminal, is in prison, and the federal government has given you scholarship, right? To add education to the smartness that you already have. A very smart, in fact, when I read the cases, they said even while he was coming to the courts for his cases, he lied to the teeth all through. From one lie to another, he would say he's guilty, he would say he's not guilty, he would say he's guilty. In fact, many lawyers, I think about 4 or 5 lawyers left the case for whatever reason. He kept changing lawyers till one particular judge said, we can't keep doing this now. Your lawyer must be able to start the case and finish. As a tactic to delay the case, he's full of antics and now want to equip him with education and now release him to the public. After his victims, do you know what it takes? I had a family member who was kidnapped and I knew he's still doing therapy. Sometimes he's still in shock. This happened, I think, about 3 years ago. He's still in shock. Do you know what the families of the people who are his victims have faced? The money they have lost. We're not even hearing things like he's going to be returning their money. He knows the people he kidnapped. He knows how many euros and pounds and dollars. He collects his money in foreign currency. He knows how much he's collected from those families. Has he returned them? Or he has stashed them somewhere so that when he's finally released back into the society, he's living free, while people are still undergoing the trauma that Evans has caused them. We need to put all this aside so that as I say,
very forgetful in Nigeria.
Yes, want to play, he has done his stride now, he's done 8 years. Did you see this particular report, how fresh he was looking? Many of us that are not in prison are not looking as fresh with the current hardship in the country. And some people are now beginning to ask questions. Are you sure this person was actually in the prison? Or somewhere in a good 5-star hotel? Appear in, we know Nigeria, these things can happen, right? But we need to know that there are consequences for every action. And if we keep doing this pardon from time to time, it will not deter people. After 5 years, I do a time, and then I come out and I plead, I've given my life to Christ, I'm now an educationist, you people should forgive me, I'll be better. We know how unreformative our prisons are. We haven't gotten to that standard where you go in and come out
let me get
reformed.
Let me get a few other thoughts and I'll come back to you, BC. Your initial thoughts on this.
You know, scarily, some of these recent kidnappings we've had after he was arrested in 2017 have also been linked to him. Sites have been found up east where kidnap victims were kept, and they'll say they were boys who had worked for Evans. So Evans' network gone wide already. He's not that we were detaining him or, you know, keeping him in custody at the Kirikiri prison did not make his network stop working. You will see that, and we know this, I would say it with all sense of responsibility, that within our prison class day, levels day to these things. Not be every prisoner go prison go suffer. This one didn't suffer.
His face looks a bit strong. He's older. Looks shrunken.
Did you see that shirt that he came to court with?
Yeah,
they don't look like those ones in the Black Maria that will be begging you as the car is doing water, money for water. This one's not suffer. No, there's no remorse. This one's, when their family members come to visit, 2 baskets with food, they will declare for the prisoners who will wash cloth, you know. So there's not been any
remorse.
No, there might be reform, but there's not been any punishment, any hardship as a result of the sentence. So when they say with hard labor, you not day for this case.
How do you know?
He not day. Look, the person we are talking about in the documentary. He didn't day. When the family members come in, everybody will be all right in the bundles that will go round, because not everything he amassed or during those years would have been recovered. I know someone, a big man in Festac, whose entire residence has been turned to a laboratory because of Evans. He was in that residence he used to live before the kidnapping happened. The man is a big man. I don't want to talk too much. And he relocated out of Festac. So this is a big deal. This is like the symbol of kidnapping. We will make an example of someone like this. And if we do pardon someone like this, sorry, as a society, we just endorse worse things. So his network has gone too far. I understand his lawyers, our producer says he's asking for clemency. He means the same thing. He's asking for pardon, a leniency, a form of reduction of his sentence, of, you know, complete forgiveness of the existing sentences. So it's, you see, as it is now, to forgive him, as Visi has highlighted, is to, as a society, give validation to that crime. It will become a way of anybody getting money, find a way to launder it. And to launder is not really hard now. If you come out, you do a lot of charities, you give yourself, you can even run for politics.
Eventually. Let me come to Maram, your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so for me as well, you know, it is that Evans is a mastermind kidnapper. That is like catching a drug baron and saying, and who has like network and has, you know, done heavy cases, you know, and has been pursued for years, and then you finally get that sort of person, and then you're thinking of clemency or some sort. It does not make sense to me, and I'm sure for many Nigerians it doesn't. The point that his lawyer made, where he says he is now a degree holder, I don't understand. If he had gone in as a teenager or an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, and because of that, so he's growing and learning. So maybe he had not come to full maturity at the time he committed the crime, and now with age, he's doing, not only is he growing and getting more mature, he's also acquiring degrees. It will make sense. But for Oga Evans, who was a whole scary, like just his name then, you know, sent fear down our spine. I refer to him as the Anini of kidnapping. As we all know the story of Anini, what he stood for. His name is being used forever, you know, for the sort of, for armed robbery that he did. And now we have an Evans and we're thinking of Clement. I don't know what the message would be. I don't know what that would do to our justice system. Already, the justice system, you know, there's so much distrust for it. We don't believe that cases are handled properly and on time. We don't believe that people who deserve justice get justice. You know, so many reasons. And then you have such a case as this, which will not only be about justice, but as a way of also, you know, laundering your image if this passes, you know, properly, and then you're talking of clemency. It does not make any sense. I hope that, you know, that the reason that this has come to the fore, you know, sometimes I just feel like there's a way God does this thing. It's so that you can remind people of someone like this, and then send a message to people that there are consequences for actions like this. When Evans was kidnapping, it was almost new at that time, because the reason why it was hard for him to have been caught, it wasn't so widespread, you know. It was still new. He lived amongst people, you know, he lived in a community, because it just did not make sense. But he has, for me, as far as I'm concerned, he started a trend. Now everybody is doing this and making money from it. We used to think kidnapping was done for, you know, political reasons. Then he was the one that commercialized this kidnapping. And then we're talking of clemency. He would be doing Nigeria a great disservice. We'll be doing our justice system a great disservice if Evans is granted any form of pardon. The plea bargain, I would like to hear the terms of that. Would it be maybe reduced sentence for information that can help, you know, in the fight against this kidnapping that we're dealing with? But lastly, I just want to say also, for me, it also shows that it's about money. This is a man that's obviously able to still pay for lawyers. And, you know, the scenario that you painted, if he didn't have money to pay for lawyers, would we even be sitting down here discussing whether he needs clemency or not? It's because for some reason they see him to be better or bigger or, you know, more equal than others. And as always in Nigeria, money has a way of just disrupting things. And please,
all right,
this
so
should not even be a conversation.
The angle I wanted to bring in also, because I mean, obviously we're all on the same page on this. But let's come to the issue of public execution or life sentences versus death penalty. Because the truth is that with the way we have described who Evans is, what many countries, especially Asian countries, would have probably preferred was a public, he would have been killed, yes, public execution. But in our laws right now, we haven't seen that carried out in recent times, in fact, many years. I was reading somewhere where it was only in 2006 that China began to consider how they reduce the amount of death penalties they're having. So we are a very, very young democracy. And because we are still young, there are a few things that we are already, it's quite ambitious for us to believe that we can actually develop a society to a world-class level if we don't begin to weed out the bad eggs amongst us. And it's not by weeding them out, it's not about just throwing them in prisons, because somehow in this part of the world, there's prison break, there's people paying their way out of prisons, there's people living 5-star in their prisons. There are different people who they live around it. So what's the best approach if we really want to strengthen this very young democracy that we're still nurturing? Don't you think in cases like this, we should begin to consider death penalty that is properly executed or publicly executed? Because there was a time it was done during the military era, and there was a lot of backlash then. Things have changed, but where we are, don't you think is worth considering? I'd probably like to start with Nima, because you're the lawyer here, and then I'll come to BC.
But you know that I don't usually agree.
I know you don't. That's I'm coming to you.
Because, you know, the chances of injustices when it comes to that is too much. It's too huge a risk to take. We don't have a system perfect enough. We don't have, when we talk of forensic investigations being done, it is only for high-profile cases and high-profile suspects. At this time of our lives, okay, we have a school over the weekend. I said I got a call where it was vandalized, fans were removed, and the teachers were detained because now you keep key, now you lock here, now you're supposed to close up. We're talking of vandalism. A stronger justice system would have fingerprints, have, you know, data. Everybody's data in the state is
cameras around
data bank. So they will now go and pick, okay, the teachers, they locked up, but whose hand was on the wires, who, you know, they can pick that, and, you know, they say is linked to so person from our data bank, and that person will be arrested and seen whether the person was within the vicinity. But we don't have that kind of, now the system we have, you're the last seen. It was last seen with you. Orogonia, you will explain where you go after you saw him. So that's the system we still have. Imagine that kind of system with the kind of justice you're describing. A lot of injustices will happen. You have innocent people fired who will be saying, I'm innocent, but who even lack the means to get a lawyer to put in all this argument of, you know, and create a doubt in the case of the prosecution. Before you know it, a lot of people will just be falling and dying like that. And because of that, we are not ripe for that. We can increase the consequence. Our sentences for kidnapping like this, kidnapping not until death. If you are involved in any form of kidnapping and your gang and co and members were picked, it should have been death sentence. Some states are varying it and saying if your victim, your hostage dies in your custody, then it is a death sentence.
But
we have cases of, you know, murder. We can increase and make more deterring the consequence of these crimes, but we should not have it like that.
Yeah.
And firing squad like that, military days, without proper trial. And we must be able to exhaust all our appeals before we carry out any.
You see, let me come to you.
I like the angle Nima has taken, that we don't have you know, the proper data and mechanisms to carry out such cases. But I want to differ, because I know that one of the reasons we are not really intent on building the sort of data we need for cases like this is because everybody is corrupt. Corruption is a part of has become a part of our culture, where everybody is benefiting from one person or the other. The family members of Evans will not have said that they did not notice that something was going on with him. They were shopping. I think the younger sister was in court to testify. He first talk, okay, yes, he come back again, he talk no, and all of that. So everybody is benefiting, and everybody is thinking in their head, what if I am the next person that is caught? If we insist on such laws and it gets to my turn, that means the same thing will happen to me. And that is why we are still, you know, petting the issue of corruption. The truth of the matter is we don't have space in our prisons to keeping people. Have you seen the deplorable state of the prisons? Have you seen how many people stay in if an epidemic comes out from that place, that's the end of the country. Because we do not have the systems to even maintain, there's no space. Except, of course, we want to start using our free land to start building prisons. We don't have that space. And so for countries who have decided that, you see, we're not going to take any form of corruption from anybody, I don't think they had all the systems in place when they started it. And I think as they were doing it, they kept seeing the loopholes and say, okay, we need to get the data right here. We need to get our forensics right here. It's about the will to do. We don't have the will to do it. And so we keep making excuses. Which year are we going to have our data complete before we do it? We will never. Because it's not priority for us. We're thinking of food, we're thinking of fuel, we're thinking of a lot. It's not priority for us. But if we say that this corruption, we're going to fight it tooth and nail, that also means that the people who are fighting the corruption self will get into the cross lines, because many of them too, claiming to fight the corruption, are corrupt. We've seen issues in some of these agencies where even internally, we see how corruption comes out of there. So everybody's hand is sold one way or the other. But if we want to come out of this, it's something that we need to decide as a people and as a country to say zero tolerance to corruption. Now, this person is a high-profile person. So let's set a few examples first. This one is not like we're suspecting they may have lied against him. It is clear that he's a criminal and he has done this, this, and this. Some of the victims were able to test. It is clear that he has done it. So what are we waiting for? Which forensic again do we need to prosecute such a person?
Let me go on a very short before we come back, because there's an angle that if we're able to give clemency to Boko Haram, why can't we to an Evans? Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.